Nicely from the SMU. Okay, first, I'd like to thank some people. Firstly, the organizers, aka, of course, having organized this wonderful event. And this is part of the Social Media Week event. Okay, I took part in last year's. Sorry, I took part in last year's event. Okay, I think I shan't move too much. Yeah, I took part in last year's event and I found it very stimulating. I think they've organized this week full of social media related events, talking about marketing issues, talking about how social media interacts with the media, how there's a hackathon, I believe, and there's also a whole string of parties that everyone should attend to mix around with the people in this industry. So I'd like to thank AKA for hosting that. I'd like to thank, of course, Ogilvy for giving us this very wonderful premises for us to have this talk today. And I understand you also sponsored food and drinks. So look forward to that after this. Now, I'm going to give a slideshow, slide presentation. It will take about 20-25 minutes. And then I'll throw it open to Michael to give some his inputs. My talk will be basically on the legal issues. Yeah, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a partner in Raja & Tan. It's a law firm. Okay, so I'll be skewed towards giving this presentation on most of the legal issues that arise on the impact of social media. Okay. Michael is a communications expert from SMU, and he will give his input onto how social media impacts on business and some of the issues that arise from there. Now, along the way, we do have a wall in which you can post your questions. Okay? This hashtag at SMWSGLaw. Okay? SMWSGLaw. So if you have any questions, just tweet that away, put it on that wall. At the end of this session, we put the wall up. Okay? And then we'll go through these riveting questions that you have. Of course, if you want to raise your hands later on, by all means, okay? Now, so I'm from Raja & Tan, so a law firm. It's a view from our office. Anyone wants to come and watch the fireworks, the National Day, we have a nice view from there. Okay, what I'm going to cover today. Okay, just a little bit of talk on social media and some stats. Delving into some of the legal issues, infringement of intellectual property rights, okay, computer crimes. We're going to talk about especially this new development in Singapore, the Personal Data Protection Act, how it's going to impact on the social media space. Issues on defamation. Okay, for all those in Singapore, you know that defamation is something that crops up all the time. Employees and employment and law issues, I'll cover that. And finally, I'll wrap it up by giving you some pointers on how to mitigate such risks, legal risks that arise in social media. Okay, you know these, you're all practitioners of social media, you're all involved in it, you all know all these strong proliferation of social media platforms, especially the newest ones, Pinterest, Instagram. Some stats. You see, this is for Singapore. I took this from website, Mr. Johnny Cole. Okay, I thought it was, he did quite well. He did some analysis of kind of social media statistics in Singapore. You can see for this is for January 2030, the percentage of Facebook users in Singapore is the breakdown. So Facebook is about past 64%, and YouTube and Twitter was under 16%. Okay. Similar stats for January to December 2011. You see Facebook predominantly is the main social media platform in Singapore. So we calculated it, say, assuming a total of 2 million hours spent on social media every day. That's his assumption. And you do a breakdown. So you look at Singapore stats, about 1.5 million hours on Facebook, YouTube for 189,000 hours, Twitter 145,000 hours, LinkedIn 7,000 hours. So you can see the vast penetration of social media, the amount that everyone is using and interacting on social media platforms. How does Singapore rank? 53 in the world for Facebook. Only 6% of Singapore population is compared to 53% in the US. YouTube, I think Singaporeans using an average of 13.5 minutes on YouTube. Okay, not sure how much time on the office using that. I think 30.5 is a reasonable amount. Twitter, 89,700 Twitter followers, and for LinkedIn, we are ranked 18 in the world. Top 5 brands on Facebook in Singapore. McDonald's. Okay, I think most of my kids are on supported. Okay, I've got 3 kids, 2 teenagers now, and every day it's just what's for dinner. Hopefully it's McDonald's. Okay, so I think that goes up. McDonald's, KFC, top brands. Scoot, Resorts, and Singtel. Political icons in Facebook in Singapore. Singapore Police Force, I don't know why. Okay, Singapore Police Force is up there. The criminals are checking. I'm not sure, or maybe Singapore very law abiding. Want to check what's the latest laws and regulations in Singapore. Of course, our Prime Minister is up there. Overtook Nicosia, and she was at 105. I think she spurted to the top after during the 2011 elections. Okay, Mr. Loh Tia Kian, our opposition MP, going up, but still falling at 22. I don't think he manages his own Facebook page. Probably somebody manages it for him. Okay, for some reason, Dr. Mahathir is there. I'm not sure why. Okay, so stats for social media and the revenues clearly is going up. By 2015, projected at 29.1 billion. Its revenue rise from social media. Now, what are the risks? I think for businesses that embark on any social media platform to increase their brand, I think they should identify some of the business risks that will arise, and some of the risks will arise from the kind of platforms that they embark on, the kind of objectives that they want to use or to pursue when they use the social media platforms. Okay, so again, each of these risks they have to identify according to the kind of objectives that they are pursuing. Now, move to IP. Okay, clearly one of the key issues on social media is that infringement of intellectual property rights. Copyright. Okay. You know, social media allows users to post a whole variety of text, graphics, photographs, and so on. I mean, it is that intermesh of creativity in terms of ideas are shared, in terms of content is proliferated. Okay, so that is really the energy of social media. Everyone shares your ideas. Everyone puts together their content. Only problem is that this issue of unauthorized reproduction. Okay, you put up your own content, your own writing. Okay, it is shared and properly accredited, fine. But if it's not, if it's cut and paste, copy from you, then and obviously no revenue coming back to you. You know, that is the issue of copyright infringement. Okay, so unauthorized reproduction under the law, under our Copyright Act, will attract liability. There is infringement if you infringe, if you take somebody's content without permission. Okay. Issue of this is that organizations will face vicarious liability. Okay, so you can have your employees out there on social media space trying to promote your brand in maybe on their Facebook, company's Facebook account, whatever, LinkedIn, whatever. But at the same time, they may inadvertently or overtly take other people's content, use that as part of the platform, and if they're not got proper authorization, they're going to be liable. The company also may be liable vicariously because of the acts of employees. These are the risks that are faced. You don't know this case. Okay, this is two DJs in Singapore who run this cupcake shop. Okay, there's a copyright tussle with the Singapore Press Holdings. Okay, 12 cupcakes. Both of them are ex-DJs, I think they're also present DJs. They run this cupcake shop. They had interview with Danny Ong and Jamie Chiu. They had an interview with Straits Times, where their cupcake shop was featured. Okay, so they had an interview, was featured, published, etc. So they felt very good about it. They used that feature article put onto their Facebook page to sort of promote their brand. Okay, so they said, well, we gave the interview to SPH, we interviewed, very nice article, promoted our cupcake shop, put it on their their Facebook page to sort of like tell everybody about it and increase the publicity. Unfortunately, SPH said that there was copyright infringement because they did not have the authority to use that newspaper article which featured them. Okay? And they demanded $3,000 from the owners for republishing these articles without permission. Yes?
Is this a special case, or do you see this happening with other, say?
Yes, I wouldn't say it's a special case. These are the terms in the, I mean, that is their right. They are the publishers. The journalist wrote that article, they publish it in the papers. The content, the copyright belongs to the newspaper. Okay, and under their terms and conditions, if you want to use any part of the reproduction, you need to get a permission and you need to pay some license fees. So unfortunately, the SPH doesn't have any exception to say if you are the subject matter of the interview, they'll waive those license fees.
You see this a lot at companies' websites, that wherever they get press,
yes,
you know, they post the article. So do you see a lot of these kind of litigations happening?
We see this in Singapore. We see this in Singapore. This is what I highlighted. This you face this with some of the press, especially with the Straits Times. They in a sense they stick to their regulations. I mean, there can be other sites where they say, well, that's fine. We want to, you know, maybe it's a lesser publication. They don't mind that their articles are put up there because it spreads the news, it spreads the content, it spreads maybe the images. They don't mind. But most people, they say they might feel that they need the license fee.
Putting a link, would that be okay?
Putting a link, okay. Putting a link should be okay because you're just linking it, right? But I think in this case, they actually took the entire image of that article and put it on their site. Sorry. Yeah, so if it's substantive reproduction, you just put a. I mean, there are a few exceptions. If you use it for, you know, for research purpose, for study and all that, that's an exception. But if you are using it to promote your business, the corporate owner may still say, no, that's not enough. You are by using that content. Okay, no doubt you've attributed to the owners, but you are still benefiting from it, and they want a cut from that. They want a license from that. Okay. Yes.
Did they pay?
Did they pay? Yes, they settled. Yes. In the end, they settled. I think if you go through the series, there, he was very unhappy. I think he took it. I think he took it down, and I think he had some settlement with SPH. Okay, let's move on. I'm sure there'll be a lot more questions, much more to talk about. Okay, that's the issue. Of course, trademarks. You know, you can also have infringement if you use other people's trademarks or using on your social media page. The trademarks are associated with brands. So the trademark infringement is it. Just very quickly, there was one case. This is one OK case where the party used somebody else's trademark without permission. And this actually went to court, and there was we got a settlement of this case. Just take account that, like copyright, if you copy somebody's trademark that you use on your brand or on your website, on your Facebook page, and infringes, it was unauthorized, you can face legal liabilities. Okay, moving on quickly, computer crimes. Now you know that because of this free flow of information, okay, there's always the potential risk of leakage, okay, confidential information being leaked. Okay, to us, it's always a concern for us as lawyers. You know, one of our lawyers late at night, probably a younger lawyer, late at night, you know, working on some big deal, okay, and then tweeting away or putting on the Facebook, I'm here in the office at 12 midnight, working on this deal and cursing and swearing. I mean, if cursing and swear is fine, probably no good for our brand image, but our concern is that they put there some indication of what deal they're working on. And if it's sensitive, it's for an IPO tomorrow or something like that, that can cause serious legal ramifications. Okay, so that's some of the potential leakage that can occur. Okay. Some indirect risks that can arise is when competitors start monitoring their competitors' employees' Facebook pages and social media pages to see what are they doing. And then they aggregate this information and try to see, oh, okay, what is that company actually doing? by piecing together a few, let's say you go through and look at about, let's say 50 of the employees' Facebook pages, piece through and they say, oh, actually they are working on this particular deal. And you can maybe from there aggregate and understand how developed is that deal. And that could be competitive information. Okay, so there is a risk that can happen. It can all be inadvertent, but it can be used by the competitor. Okay, of course, social media, how is it used for computer crime? It's the trust element. Okay, a lot of people go on Facebook, a lot of people use on social media. There's a lot of trust element because you're getting your friends there, you're sharing information, everything is trusted. And that's where the fraudsters can come in. They leverage off this trust element. Okay, to start, sending out malware, sending out viruses, etc. Then you get tricked to provide personal information. So a lot of issues with respect to how fraudsters can get personal data and then target you do by phishing emails and or spam. I think recently some of the banks had some phishing emails and etc. So again, what are the liabilities for organizations? Get potential lawsuits. Okay, if your organization somehow has provided a link or provided some avenue for these fraudsters to garner confidential information or potential information, personal information. You may also face regulatory actions where it's financial information that they leak in violation of securities regulations. And the organizations may also be liable because you fail to detect that your organization or your employees' social media sites have been used by scammers, okay, associated with the company's name or used by scammers, and they leverage off your company's name to obtain, again, confidential information or personal data. Okay, just one example. How it's used for computer crimes. In 2007, this Mr. Song used a program called MSN8 to obtain the MSN usernames and passwords of contacts he met online. He doctored pictures of some of the email victims, superimposed the heads on naked bodies, even threatened to make public image of the victim if he refused to send pictures of the press. So very criminal, nefarious activities. Okay, so it was 9 charges under the Computer Misuse Act, 1 charge under penal code for criminal intimidation, and he was sentenced to 27 months in prison. Okay, this pure criminal element using this type of internet accesses, using contacts he made to sort of perpetuate his perverted intentions. This case, I'm sure, was last year, but just an update. It's Gary Yu, a former Singapore technology kinetics employee. He posted on his Facebook where he sort of incited violence. Okay? He doctored a photograph of a Vietnamese general executing former Deputy Prime Minister Wong Kan Seng's with a gun held to his head. Okay? He also downloaded the general executing a Viet Cong guerrilla and replaced the face with that of Mr. Wong. Now, he was originally fined $8,000 by a district judge. Okay, that was last year. Early last year, he was fined $8,000. The district judge said, well, he didn't think he had real criminal intent. He thought it was just mischievous. He was trying to make a statement. Unfortunately, the prosecution appealed against that sentence, and he was given 2 months jail in September of 2012. Okay. This is the picture, without the doctoring, of course. This is the famous picture of the general executing the Vietnamese guerrilla. So what this Gary Yu did was superimpose DPM, at that time DPM's Wong Kan Seng's face on that. Okay? In a sense, I think his defense was just trying to make a political statement. Okay, but I think the court felt that this crossed the line. Apart from this picture, he had also made some other threats of trying to stage a bomb of the national parade or something like that. Okay, so the court felt that there was he crossed the line. It was an incitement of violence, and ultimately his fine of $4,000 was uplifted, overturned, reversed, and he was given 2 months in prison. Recent case, January 2013, 13-year-old Indian boy in Singapore, student of Global Indian International School, posted a Facebook message. He threatened to take big revenge, spit everywhere, plant bombs on Marina Bay Sands when he leaves Singapore. I think the first two, big revenge and spit everywhere, I think my daughter, got 14, always says that. Usually they revenge very at teenagers. But I think what caused the problem is the plant bombs on Marina Bay Sands. Okay, so he's been arrested under the breach of prohibition against false threats of terrorist act. Okay, I mean it's a 13-year-old ranting and raving, but these are the repercussions. I couldn't find any updates of what's happening with the investigations. Okay, but I think that the last part, flooding bombs or they sent. I suppose the police want to send a signal that don't speak irresponsibly online. Even though you're a kid, maybe they just need to investigate. Maybe hopefully he's let off with a stern warning. He's learned his lesson. He's frightened. The message is sent to him. Moving on quickly, just impact of the Personal Data Protection Act in Singapore. I can't go into all the details of this new act. I'm sure you all have attended a lot of other seminars, a lot of information, but there is this new Personal Data Protection Act that's passed in Singapore, and it is going to impact on how people deal with information on social media. Very quickly, it's passed in last year. It's going to protect personal data in Singapore. Okay? It's a protection. It governs the collection, use, disclosure, and care of personal data in Singapore. Some of the concepts, okay, you need to get consent if you're collecting personal data. Okay? The organizations, if you collect any data, what is the purpose of it? You only use it for the purpose that you collected it for. You cannot use it for other commercial purposes. Okay? Again, reasonableness. You can only collect data, information that is reasonable for the objective that you are collecting the purpose for. Okay? I think this is to, again, put us in line with advanced countries. Europe, especially US, they all have advanced Personal Data Protection Act. Okay, this is to safeguard our individuals' rights, individuals' personal data, so it's not really used and spread all over the place. I think one of the big points about this Personal Data Protection Act will, of course, be the Do Not Call registry. Okay, I'm just at this moment, just expecting a call right now from the insurance company asking me whether I want to buy insurance product. Okay, I'm sure you all get this every time. Right? Every time you're in a meeting, you get a call from insurance agent or credit card company asking you, do you want to sign up for something? Once this Do Not Call registry is up, you put your name on it, Do Not Call registry, then it's an offense for them to call you. You had a question? Yes.
A question regarding to personal data. In the US especially, there was this famous case with the California state attorney basically going after the big fish in social media and mobile publishing and app publishing in general, stating that they basically need to put much more effort into making clear privacy policies for all the apps, especially which can gather a lot of personal data. So do you see any similar development here in Singapore or Asia happening in this regard? Because when you download your apps,
yeah, certainly.
To social life is outrageous what we need to consent, right?
I'll go through a portion. Yes, I certainly see that. I think was it just 2 days ago, Google is going. The European Commission for Privacy Protection says Google's privacy policy doesn't comply, and they're going to investigate Google. So if they don't put the act in order, they will face sanctions. I just came back from a seminar in Bangalore, a technology conference, and there were all talk on the data protection regime in Europe. Apparently, they are going to increase it more. There's going to be a directive for Europe in the next 2 years. They're actually going to increase the enforcement ability to fine them up to 2% of the global turnover of that company. Okay, right now, for us, the act up to $1 million for infringement. But the directive is, and that will send some strict signals, because if you're a large multinational with $1 billion in revenue, 2% of enforcement for fines or data protection will send a signal. Okay, so I do see that development in Singapore. I do see that development coming, that they're going to enforce this Personal Data Protection Act quite seriously. And I think companies that deal with personal data, especially social media companies that deal with personal data, will have to follow the guidelines, be very careful of being within the parameters of this of the law. Okay, so it's going to start. It's already started. There's a rollout period. There's a commission just recently, just on 5th February, set up these regulations. Okay, so the law is there, the statute book is there. They've now started coming up with the regulations. Okay, I just want to highlight one regulation which I think is going to impact. Clause 9. Okay, these are proposed regulations. It's sent out for feedback from the public. It proposes treating minors who are at least 18 years of age as capable of exercising their own rights and powers under the PDPA. Okay, that's fine. Anyone above 18, even though you're in Singapore, you're still treated as a minor. Okay, they still say, look, if you give consent, maybe the website owner, social media owner can say, okay, this guy is 18, he's given his consent, I can deal with the data as he's consented to. Now the controversial, I think slightly controversial one is this section. The same will only apply to minors between the age of 14 to 18 if they understand the nature of the right of power and the consequences of exercising the right of power. So now I'm just thinking, how are we going to ascertain the understanding of a 14 to 18 years old? You know, I think there's going to be issues there. Okay, because I know for Facebook, I think you are 13 years old, you can have a Facebook page. Okay, so let's say you are obtaining information from Facebook page from somebody who's 14 and a half. Okay, and it says, yeah, the 14 and a half year old consents to you collecting the information or using the information. Now, according to these regulations, so long as you show that this 14 and a half year old teenager, you know, realizes the import of what is consenting to, you're fine. Okay, as a lawyer, I can see a lot of challenges when it comes to it. So I think maybe this regulation is going to have an impact. I think they're going to have to fine-tune this particular regulation. Okay, so watch this space. PDPA is going to have an impact on social media space, and these regulations, as they evolve and they get feedback, is going to be refined. Very quickly, moving on to defamation. Okay, you know, everything you post online is widespread. Okay, it's very difficult to track such statements. Defamation just simply means you're saying something bad about the other person such that his reputation is lowered. Okay, you call a person a crook, a cheat, a fraud, that's defamation. Okay, and again, no defense just because it's posted online. There's no special magic defense. You say, oh, I posted on social media, I posted on the internet, therefore I'm safe. No such thing. Okay? Because in fact, actually, it may get worse. You're posting it not only to one person, it can spread all over around, and the person's reputation may be more severely damaged because of this multiplying effect of social media. Very quickly, some recent case in Singapore. Danny Lim is a bowler. He made some derogatory comments about Singapore Bowling Federation and its president. So he was again asked to retract those. The lawyer's letter was sent to him, and he did retract. He apologized on Facebook to both Singapore Bowling Federation and Ms. Hua, and he has deleted the defamatory statements. Promised not to repeat it again. Okay, he acknowledged that the defamatory statements that meant that they were corrupt and self-serving organization. So clearly defamatory. Political cases, I'm sure you all know all this. Again, Dr. Vincent Vijayasinghe of SDP had to apologize to Mr. Minister Tan Juan Chin. This in regards to the SMRT case. The bus drivers, he made some defamatory remark that this minister knew or was not honest in what he said about the SMRT bus drivers. Drivers were strike. Okay. So a legal letter was sent, and he had to retract defamatory statements, and he published an apology on his Facebook page. Very famous Mr. Alex Au of Johnny Red. Okay. This was last year. He made a comment about the Yoshing case, and he made a comment about Mr. Shamgar, him having some adulterous affair as well. Okay. And in this case, the lawyers again sent a letter to Mr. Au asking to remove the post, and requested the letter be published on the Morning Grade. Just show you a sample of a lawyer's letter. Okay, hopefully nobody gets such a lawyer's letter. If you get it from me, sorry, you can say you. I hope I don't have to send anybody a lawyer's letter. Okay, but typical lawyer's letter, we act for so and so. They will set up what are the defamatory passages in that block. In this case, the block. Okay, and then they say, well, look, it's scurrilous. False is scurrilous. You don't have to proceed if you don't apologize. You take down and apologize. Okay, so he did take down and apologize. Unfortunately, it's been Mr. Alex Au will say again further issues. 18 June, he wrote an article about Waffles Wu, the famous cosmetic surgeon, getting a fine only for getting somebody to take a rap for his speeding case. Okay, and insinuated the Singapore judicial system is biased and well connected. So again, he's apologized and taken down the statements. Finally, latest aspect in January, okay, he made some allegations against, or in this case was, what happened was that he wrote an article about the AIMS matter, okay, the AIMS saga in Singapore, and then unfortunately in the comments section there were people commenting on his article, okay, and unfortunately in that comment section from other people, third parties putting there, it was quite defamatory. Said the government was corrupt, there was a big cover-up, etc., etc. And again, impugn on the integrity and that reputation of Prime Minister Lee. Okay, so they said this article, together with the comments from third parties, was defamatory, and that's the voice letter was sent to Mr. Ao. Okay, he says since apologized, taken down, remove those comments as well. Okay. So we can have a discussion on whether this is right, this is wrong, this is the proper way that how social media is governed with respect to defamation in Singapore. But just fetch it up for now. Give some thought as to how our system is evolving. Okay. Very quickly, employees and employment issues. Again, if you have employees, and I'm sure we all have employees in organizations that post about the company. Okay. Employees actually can be the best brand ambassadors. If your employees are great, love the organization, they can write great things about it, they can tell you how wonderful the place is, and it can be very genuine because it's from the employee's heart. They say, wow, this organization looks after me, I see a vision, etc. It can be great brand ambassadors. But the flip side, of course, is if they're unhappy, they can really destroy your brand. They can go out, they can say all sorts of things, warranted or unwarranted. But nevertheless, the public perception can be framed by such employees going out on social media. So, in February 2011, Employee Health Promotion Board, he tweeted a personal message containing all sorts of expletives, etc. Okay, so not very good for the organization. This one struck at the home of a lot of us, Singaporeans who male especially. There was a sergeant in the Singapore Armed Forces, this was just a few days ago, posted on the Facebook page that the only good thing about his job was he could show his anger at the recruits. Okay, for you guys who served your my time 2.5 years, your time maybe 2 years, we have to go there and then maybe this is an unspoken rule in the SAF where they have to be tough and the sergeants do get some pressure, but this obviously has repercussions for the professionalism of the military, repercussions for parents who are actually standing with their children for national service to say, wow, you're going to be subject to a bunch of pleasant experience of service in the military. Okay, so damage, there's investigations, the military and SAF has come up with a public statement to say, no, this is again some black sheep, this is obviously not how everyone, sergeants are thinking in the SAF. Okay. So, this type of information that's sent out, gives a very bad impression of the brand, very bad impression of the organization, and you're then struggling, to try to recover. Famous case, I'm sure everyone knows, just last year's immature. Okay, NTUC marketing director or some director sent out these racist tweets. Okay, and that caused a real big hoo-ha in Singapore, and had the Prime Minister coming out the next few days. She was terminated, and the Prime Minister coming on, posting on his Facebook page as well to say he condemns such statements. Okay, to say that it was something on her own. It was a personal Facebook page, not really connected to NTUC. Only problem is that